welcome to our special interview today with Erin. How are you doing, Erin?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Is that how I pronounce your name? Because you said it means peace in Irish, right?
Yes, Erin means peace.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we connected on TikTok. I've seen a lot of your videos as well, and you said you've seen mine. And earlier you were talking about how you and your friend called me a guru. I don't like terms like that. I think we should not put anyone on any. Our biggest guru is our twin flame. So today we're going to talk about what you offer, what you do, and your journey. So first of all, let's get into it. So you're available on TikTok, and your TikTok handle is it Twin Flame Sessions?
Yes, with an S. There's been some copycats, I'm sure you've had some too. And they take the S off and they've DM'd people. It's horrifying, but yeah, it's Twin Flame Sessions with an S. And that's my only account. And I don't DM people to solicit readings.
I mean, it is a compliment when they do that, but it's funny because they download your video with your real handle on there, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're not really clever. So you're a twin flame coach. You do intuitive healing sessions, and what does that entail? Because you have quite a lot of gifts.
Yeah, so I started on TikTok about a year and a half ago. Just felt intuitively, divinely guided, however you want to put it, to start putting content out there and taking clients. And so the way I explain it is I see, hear, and feel. So clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. So just every session is unique depending on the unique and beautiful situation of the twin. So sometimes I will see pictures and I'll explain the pictures and the connections, and it all is sort of a beautiful journey that we go on that gives us information. Sometimes I'll hear guided, words to say that are coming through, um, and or I'll have guided questions to ask the twin flame to help uncover subconscious beliefs or unconscious trauma that we can clear and heal. And then sometimes I'll feel into, the the client. I'll feel into their body to see where they're holding trauma or hiding or just need some information that's there, and we can go in and clear that out as well. It's everyone is unique. Sometimes I get divine assignments for that client, which I love when those come through. So I'm a big advocate for doing your divine assignments, because that is what we have to do exactly in this moment on our journey for healing, or to nudge us to the next step, or to unlock something to spiral up, if that makes sense.
So you're able to tap into the counterparts, the client's twin flame as well, and confirm whether they're twin flames and whether, what sort of work they need to do and where the blocks are. Because a lot of people they get doubts, right? They get confused. And like, how do you determine whether someone is someone's twin flame? Do you feel the energy, or is it like you work with the higher self, the guides, or?
I ask, yeah. So I'm a one of the healing modalities that that I've used in my own life, and that I like to promote for other people to use is journal therapy. Like, I've taught journal therapy, and using the journal it's how I develop my own intuition. It's how I've described my own twin flame path and put the puzzle pieces together. Um, Developed a connection with God. And so what I do is I ask for a name, and then I write the names side by side on my paper. I always have like a notebook and a pen. And so I bring into the scene onto the page what is unseen, and I get like an intuitive hit on it. So it's more of an energy connection, and then sometimes I can see the connection as well. And then sometimes I have to peel back some of the energy layers in order to see that connection. Like, sometimes I'll get the information right away, and sometimes we might have to peel back some layers. So it could take, the full session to get to the answer, but I always get to it. So that's how that works.
So have you always had these gifts, or did they like come to you later in life, maybe after you met your twin flame, activated? Because I hear some people say when they get into union, their gifts get even more amplified. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think so. I was born, my very first memory was when I was 3 years old. It was a spiritual memory. And it was an encounter with Jesus. And I just, my whole life, I've been on the spiritual path, but I became, I guess you would say, suppressed. All my spiritual gifts were suppressed. I wasn't in an environment that so let's just say I would have dreams or I would know things about people like when I was 11, 12 years old, that there's no reason I should know these things or be having these dreams. And then, so when I was younger, I would say, I had a dream about you that you were having an affair with someone. Can you believe what kind of, like, I had that dream? And then, like, person would go, sit down. And like, and I'd be like, what? Like, what a stupid dream I had. And then they would tell me and confess that actually the dream was. So when I had like that, I've had those experiences my whole life, but I still felt like um, something was wrong with me because I didn't understand that it was a gift. I thought it, because if people aren't, before I learned approach people with information that I've been given, I would just kind of sort it out. And so not everybody is ready for the information. And so when I was younger, then if people aren't ready for the information, then they want to call you crazy or they want to gaslight or deny. And so then I turned it internal. So for many years of my life, I was in depression. And I was, I became that facade. I became what I thought, was supposed to be. Um, I was living in some templates that caused a lot of pain and suffering in my life. And I don't know if I can say the words, but for 20, it was out from the age of 24 till the age of 41 or 42, I believe. I suffered with the ideation. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it here, but it was a battle against my own mind every second of every day for that many years. And so I'm always been someone to like want to figure out what it is. So I did lots of therapy. I tried to do all the searching. Then my son was born, and he was the very first thing that I was married at the time. I was married for 13 years. And he was born, and I did a natural birth with him. I did a home birth. I just am someone who wants to experience everything. I want to see what I'm capable of, or what the experience will teach me. So I did this home birth with him, and it was beautiful. And when he was baby, I was holding him. I was actually breastfeeding him in the evening, and the moonlight was coming in the window, and I just had it was this beautifully and like brightened moment in my life, and I realized this connection I have with my beautiful child is unlike anything else in my life. It contrasted. I had so much pain and suffering in every other area of my life that this experience of love between myself and my child, there had no pain in it. There was no pain or suffering between the two of us. It was this pure intimacy. And I thought to myself, this must be what intimacy feels like. And it was a mother to a child. And then I said, this must be what love really feels like. And I thought, and then it shook me, and I started to weep, and I thought, I have to heal every part of my life because I want every part of my life to feel like this. It just contrasted with everything. So that started this path of me. The only thing I could say was, I have to know the truth. I have to find the truth. And I would put myself in situations and kind of see how they shook out, and then write down everything I was learning from it. I walked away from a lot of the templates that I had grown up with. I left my marriage. I had to go down this path because people where I came from don't get divorced, at least not at the time. It wasn't a thing we did. It was I was pioneering that, I guess, in my realm, I guess. And then a year after I was divorced, that's when I met my twin flame. So we met in 2013 on my birthday. And we were both actors in this acting class because when I got divorced, I said, I want to, I've always wanted to be an actress. I've always wanted to. So I thought I was too old, but I had a friend who said, just try it. Got accepted to an agency, and my twin flame and I were both in this showcase. We were this actor showcase, and they paired us together to be scene partners. So we had to rehearse this scene for like 8 weeks, and then eventually, perform for these talent agents in the big markets, like the LA markets and in New Mexico markets. And through that course of us rehearsing together, so I was 39 when we met. We're twins that have an age difference. So he is 24 and I was 39. But very young. I have a very young soul, and I look younger than I am. And he had an old soul, and we were just having these conversations that I couldn't believe a 24-year-old could have. And I would say things to him like that stuff would just start to come out of my mouth. Like, why would I say that? When we were just rehearsing. And anyway, we did the showcase, and we were great. Everybody loved us. We had big dreams. We were dreaming of, becoming, big actors. And he's a musician also. And then after we stopped rehearsing regularly, we started to miss each other, and he had just become my best friend. And so there were only two people in the world that I would listen to at that time, because I hated everybody else. I had such dark heaviness still in me that I hadn't processed through by the time I met him. But he was my breath of fresh air. I would say, "You're my breath of fresh air." And so we just kept running around together. And then there became this moment of the sobbing and like, "I'm in love with you. What am I supposed to do? You're like this. What's wrong with me?" I thought something was wrong with me. But he was so warm and so open that it brought me out of my, shell that I had come into because of the trauma and pain that I had carried in my life up until that point. So we did then start our love affair, you would say, at that point. And um, it was the summer of 2015. So 2 years into our, you know, very dramatic first 2 years, because I ran a lot, because I kept thinking, why would a 24, I'm a single, I kept saying, you don't know what you don't know. You don't want to be with a mom with a kid, but he loved my son. He was so connected to him. And
Was he chasing you?
what?
Was he the chaser?
He was, and he kept saying, "I see us. We're gonna have a great life together." And I would say, "No." So finally, after about a year and a half, what happened was the summer of 2015. I still was struggling with my mental illness at the time, and then we were in one of our week or 2 week time of not speaking to each other, and my son was out of town with his dad, and I was spiraling down, and I couldn't get my mind to think of my son, because usually if I would spiral and I would have the thoughts, I would think, well, my son needs his mother. And that day I couldn't get my mind out of it. I couldn't get my mind to stop. It was telling itself things, and it was awful. And out of the blue, my twin flame messaged me and said, "Thinking about you, hope you're okay." And I said, "I need to see you." We met up. He came, he stayed with me for 3 days, and I have never had those thoughts since. He healed me. And that just changed everything for me. And I was like, who am I to say who God puts in my life? Like, who am I to say who, like, because I thought when I got divorced, I wanted to be with someone like 5 years older. I had this idea of who I was going to be looking for. And I was like, who am I to say? Like, I love this person. We have such this connection that and every twin flame knows, like, we could write books and books and books about the moments that are. I remember I used to say to him, "This is life, right?" Like everything else, I was starting to connect things, and I would say, I think when we're together, like, this is what life is, not what we're doing elsewhere." And we would have like these awakening conversations, but we didn't have the language. We didn't know what was happening back then. That was in 2013, 14, 15. There wasn't a whole lot. So once I decided I was all in, then it triggered him, and he was then it's been a lot since then. And I think then fast forward to 2016, we were on a breakup weekend and had a surprise pregnancy. And that's when, back to answer your question, that's when I had already been seeking. all this time seeking the truth. What is God? What are these signs and wonders? What are the synchronicities? What is the animal spirits, or the, the messages that are coming? Like, what is all that? Because I didn't grow up with any of that. I grew up in a Western, a Protestant, non-denominational, Christian, Midwestern, upbringing. And I left it all because I hated it for a long time. I've come full circle. There was some beauty there, but I've been able to kind of come back around as my whole self, and I'm not like in it, if you know what I mean. So I'm not. I've converted out of. That's a religious thing, but anyway. So we had a surprise pregnancy, not planned, but then it was a lot of drama, as you can imagine, and I miscarried. And so then what happened was, this is where like the whole awakening came, and I started to just go down this path of accepting, like, this is who I really am. I have these gifts. I'm not going to hide them anymore. But I miscarried, and then immediately after I miscarried, I felt like, I'm a real estate agent. I've been doing real estate for 20 years. So at that time, I started to, I didn't know what it was. I started to go through an awakening. I didn't have language for it. I was like, please, I was like, somebody tell me what is going on. Like, I couldn't have, I felt a spirit hold me. I felt something hold me down in my bed. And I felt this impression say, your full-time job is to pray and meditate. And you immediately, like, I couldn't have put 2 plus 2 together, and you have to be able to add numbers to be able to do my job. So I immediately was just in my bed, and it wasn't grief, because I knew grief, and it was something else. And I was held like by whatever angel spirit, whatever it was, I don't know. But I knew in that time, all day long, I went into this altered state of prayer and meditation, and I could feel like the neurological pathways in my mind and in my heart start to disconnect and rewire. And I was learning about what love actually means, and I was learning a new vision to see, like, from a new level of see, like, how God sees us as humans and as creation. And from the external world, my twin flame wasn't behaving as someone would say, well, that's a good partner. He's really taking care of her after her miscarriage. He kind of just, he was there, but not really taking care of me. He did his own path. And so I had to learn a lot during that time. I learned how to pray. I learned how to meditate. I learned to rethink and rearrange my heart towards this unconditional love that they talk about, but it didn't keep me the same. Like, I had to go and I started to see my own self and started to make apologies to people that I had hurt in the past. And so there was a lot of purification happening during that time. And that lasted for about 40 days. I was rereading a journal the other day, and I'd written it lasted about 40 days. And then after about 40, that happened day and night. And then after about 40 days, I started gradually coming out of that state, but with different eyes. And I still wasn't like using those gifts. I was then just down the path of I spent probably another 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years, wanting to know. That's when and during that time I heard about this twin flame, and I was like, that is the only thing that explains us. That's it. There's nothing else that can explain us. And so then I tried to find information about it. There was some really bad information at the time, not a ton of information like we have now. Found a couple that I felt were really clear guides, learned their stuff, and then just kept having to go through. What I called it a spiritual hammering. It definitely has never felt like like I'm sitting in bliss. I felt like I'm just being hammered. Like, and then I'm like, okay, I think I learned that lesson. And then, no, Erin, here's another one. You're in bed for 3 more days, crying your head off, praying, cleansing, purging. Then getting to like some new level of understanding.
It does become bliss eventually, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's a good point. So that's to answer your question and to tell a little bit about the story. I spent about another 2 years asking for confirmation if this twin flame thing is real, because I didn't want to be lied to. I wanted to, I tried to find like ancient texts, ancient religions, like, where is the first time someone ever mentioned this word? And I kind of solved that, all that. So I did a lot of. I was
What
just
what
like a
did you
little
find out?
scientist.
What did you find out?
So there's a lot in most origin stories for most religions that I haven't studied all religions. There's these concepts of this soul counterpart. Um, Also, Plato talked about it. His concept was that humans started out with 4 arms and 4 legs. Zeus cut us in half because we were too powerful, sent us, spinning to find each other. There's a like a Yiddish term called beshert, where it's like you date till you find your soul's counterparts, your beloved. And then there's the story I grew up with, which is the Adam and Eve story, which is God took the rib and put it and created woman. And that could be physical or spiritual or metaphorical. I don't know, but I got to enough origin stories where this concept and theme seemed like it was across the board that I said it has to be real, and our culture just doesn't understand it anymore. Like our culture is so um in more of a path of like, well, here's like my culture, my Western culture that I grew up in. It's like this is how things go, and you get married and you have your children, and for some people that's working, but that's not how it was for me. And I believe my parents are twin flames.
Oh
Um,
wow.
they got married at 18 and 19, and they're still married at 74 now, and they have been through a lifetime of a lot. But my dad always said, your mom and I, no matter what we put each other through, knew we were supposed to be together. And they just didn't have the words twin flames. But he's always said she's my soulmate.
Yeah, and it's just a term anyway. But even if you look at ancient Egypt, you've got Osiris and Isis. In Hinduism, there's a lot about the divine masculine, the feminine, the counterparts. I have loads of questions to ask you from what you've just mentioned. Loads and loads of questions. So the first question is, the first time you met your twin flame, did you know straight away he's the one? Was there sort of a soul recognition? Like people talk about this, right? What did you feel when the first time you saw him at that dance class, acting school?
Acting, we didn't like each other. We were annoyed with each other because I was very seriously trying to become a serious actress. I was 39. I had some time. I had to catch up. I had been married for so long, and I just felt like I was coming out of the womb, and I was gonna, you know,
Knock 'em dead.
yeah. And then he wasn't taking it seriously. Like he skipped a rehearsal to go on a date with some girl, and I was just like, I was very much a little diva. I was very green in the acting world, and he just thought I was ridiculous. And so we annoyed each other, but also during that time, I used to say things like, "Why does my uterus move when I sit next to you?" Like these things would come out of my mouth, but I was having somatic responses to his closeness to me.
Energy.
Yeah. And then eventually, the first time we were ever together physically, sexually, we were just like, we woke up the next morning and because from that to fast forward, it was like about 9 months, right? But so at first, no, we weren't. We were annoyed with each other, and we just thought each other were just we were like a brat. Like he thought I was a brat, and I thought he was a dick, honestly.
Would he be your typical type of guy? Despite the age thing, but would he be your typical type of guy you've always wanted to be with?
He definitely has a physical, like
Yes.
yeah, he definitely. I mean, I was thinking I wanted to be with someone older, so no, not the age, like you said, but he definitely is my type.
Yeah, I find that with a lot of twin flames. Thankfully, we get the ones that are our type. So
Yeah.
is he of the same background as you as well? Like, does he come from the same sort of? Because with twin flames, age is a thing, location, culture, religion. There's so many things that you have to surpass in order to bridge that unconditional love. Were there any
hmm
other factors that were different for each other apart from the age?
He is his mother was Mexican and his dad is Caucasian, so he's
Mixed.
a beautiful mix of like background. His mother is like a phenomenal woman. She's since passed, but I loved her. She grew up picking cotton on a farm in Texas, and she was little, brave woman. Had like, I don't, the number changes all the time. between 13 and 17 siblings. I don't know how many siblings he had, but he came. So that's his mother's side. His dad's side. You know, a lot. There's so much.
So his dad's side is European German or French, English?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Mix all of that.
And yours is Irish and?
I'm very mixed. A strong Czech, like Eastern European from my dad's side, and then my mom some Dutch, and some of the like Northern European.
I can see that. And is your twin flame also spiritual like you? Did he have gifts? Does he have gifts, or is he very much the 3D version?
So it's interesting because we flipped. So in the beginning, he was the magic. I just would say you're magic, and he would say things that I would go, "What are you saying?" Even though I was overtly on a spiritual path, he was, I think, in the beginning, much more aware of things like I would say now, like think like the universe stuff, and I didn't understand that all the time. So he woke me up spiritually, even though I was on a spiritual path already and I was seeking. He I just there's so many moments of that, but he wasn't like sitting down doing his spiritual practices. He's music, so he was writing songs. He was writing, his language is music, and so I would listen. I would desperately wait for him to release a song to like hear his soul, and that would like wake me up and tell me things, and then after time it switched. Like when I went through the awakening after with that beautiful soul that I got to carry for the time, who woke me up and started the awakening, then he flipped, and it's almost like he forgot.
Okay. And is he the divine feminine or the divine masculine? Because you said he was the chaser. Like people want to know, how do you know which one's what? It's only
we're both.
Yeah.
We're always both chasing and running, but in the beginning, even before I knew about twin flames, I was always exploring concepts of femininity and masculinity and sexuality and sacred sexuality, like all that, before I even met him. And then when we met, we used to always say like, "Oh, I'm the masculine and he's the feminine." We just knew it, and we would have a lot of fun working it out in the bedroom. But it's like then over time, we both have rearranged, where he has become more into the masculine, the 3D,
yes,
and I became much more into the spiritual, the feminine. So we've switched.
Yeah, so you were acting from your masculine and now you've gone to your polarity of feminine. So that's interesting. And then, do you believe everybody has a twin flame?
I can't answer that question.
Yeah?
Because I have no divine guidance on that. I don't, from just anecdotal experience, I can't see that everybody does, because
I don't think everyone can deal with it, to be fair.
Really?
Yeah, I think that I believe everyone does, but I don't think everyone's incarnated or is meant to meet them, because I feel like it's a tough journey. Only the toughest can deal with it, I think. It's very tough. That's my perception. But then how do you know if someone is your twin flame or not? Because this question comes up a lot. Like, is he a karmic? Is he a soulmate? Is he twin flame? So how did you figure that out? Or what guidance do you have on that?
Yeah, because I think it's very important to not be living in wishful thinking, because I think there's so many people who hear this idea. It's become very popular. The word, the concept has become very popular in the last few years. So now everybody thinks it's like, it's like I used to say, walking around go like, "Are you my soulmate? Are you my twin flame? Are you my," like just obsessed with it. But so I really caution people to just know that they know that they know, and not just say, "Well, show me 3 dolphins and then I'll know." Like that's not it for me. That's not enough. So for me, how I knew, like I said, when I was in that altered state, so that awakening illumination state, and that term came across, like a friend said, "Sounds like a twin flame thing," and I was like, "What?" I just was like, "Huh?" But then I spent two or 3 years. The timing is kind of blurry, but just asking God for clarity. And I did 2 intuitive sessions with 2 different twin flame like intuitives They both confirmed it, but that still wasn't even enough for me. I just had to know that I know. So I did a lot of journaling. I have different journal techniques that I use to speak with God. I would track everything in my journal, like all of the, we would call them synchronicities or the experiences we were having, things he would say. Because of course, as soon as I found out the term, I went to him. I'm like, guess what? We're twin flames. And you know what he said? He goes, I went to the doctor today and found out I have high cholesterol. Like that was his response. So I say don't go running to your twin flame to tell them you're twin flames, because that's not gonna. It's like I thought I was so naive and I thought, oh, he's gonna be like, okay, let's go get married and be together forever. That's not how it
It
works.
can be
And so
a manipulation tactic that people use. Now you were
I
locked
think,
together. Now you have to be mine.
yeah, and I had to heal that because I didn't know it at the time, but I then started to become angry at him because he wasn't behaving accordingly, and I had to heal a lot of that. So how I find out, I spent a good long time asking God, not just for the numbers. The numbers would show up, I'd write them down. The 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 intuitives confirmed it wasn't enough, but I'd write it down. And then finally, after many years with him, it's like I knew I came to an agreement within myself. Okay, God, I don't feel like I'm being fooled. I feel like you've affirmed it enough. I don't, but also then now what, you know?
Mhm.
And then over time, my twin flame, which it's like, the word, we're all going to graduate out of this terminology at some point, this twin flame terminology. Like you start using it for long enough, and at some point you're like, can I get a new one?
My favorite terminology right now is the tool. I refer to the twin flame as a tool, an ascension tool,
Yeah.
which is a little bit cold, I think, but it's a tool.
I think you're right. It is a tool for spiritual awakening. Um, it's how there's no, like, it got to a point where I realized there's no other way. I couldn't have gone through this soul cleansing and healing and purification. And there's always going to be more. I even hate to say that out loud because I don't know that we ever arrive. We can't. We're not. But it does get easier. It gets different. It gets better. It gets calmer. It gets more peaceful. You will get to these timelines where you won't go, like these moments in time where you'll never have to go back to this state or state again because you've done all the healing. But for me, I think I finally, after about 2 or 3 years, I came into agreement with it and I accepted it. And then it's just continued to explore, well, what does that mean? And then over time, he will finally say, I mean, it was just a few weeks, like last month, I was asking him, I started to feel suffocated by the connection. Like it kind of, when I started to pull back on focusing on myself again, I started to have this realization of, oh no, I'm never gonna get to have my freedom again. Like I want to be free. I'm a free spirit. Like, and then I realized, oh no, I don't know why I never realized this before because I was so obsessed with him. But as I continue to learn to let go and all that good stuff we have to learn, I started to realize this connection is never going to go away. And I've had lots of conversations with God about it, and just saying, if you want this to go away, like I know God, you can do anything, like please take it away. Then
Yeah, people
and
talk about
but
cutting cords all the time, constantly. I'm like, well, are you mad? No.
but that cord doesn't go, and so I asked him, I asked him, and I said because he moved away. We were in the same cities for 6 years, and 5 years ago he just moved away with 3 days notice and moved to another state. I didn't even know he was looking for work, and so that changed a lot of things for us. Um, but while he was moved away in a different state, it looked like he was just taking all his freedoms and enjoying, freedom and all that. So a few weeks ago, I asked him. I said, during that time, did you feel really free from me and from us and our connection? And because it seemed like it, and I want that now. And he said, no, no. He's like, you're everywhere. He has been on the other side of the world, and he'll say, I can't get away from your presence. He has been on the other side of the world, and I'll feel I'll feel the 3D pain of the separation and be crying in bed, and he's come to me, and like I can feel him in spirit holding me as if he was right next to me, and he's on 3D on the other side of the world. So when enough of that stuff happens,
I just want to like, that's an amazing thing, because this sort of magical stuff does not happen with soulmates or karmics. It doesn't.
no.
There you go. The actual, I call it the ghost version of them, but it's you're right, it's the 5D higher self follows you around.
And once I finally realized, I came to terms with peace with that, then everything changes. There's not a, I mean, you still have little cycles of anxiety or cycles of being activated, but you get through them so much faster than in years before.
It's the energy, right? That's very intense, that makes you run or chase or do all the, I need freedom, I need this, I'm suffocated. So you have to bring it to peace, right? And ground it. And surrender. So I guess you were surrendering. He was. What's your current situation now?
We message. We're not in 3D like committed relationship, but we have beautiful exchanges, and then he'll not communicate for a few weeks, and then when he doesn't do that, then I go inward, and it's just this last inward thing has just been incredible. Like I spent 6 days about a week and a half ago, right? It all always lines up too. It's like right leading up to is it the new moon we're in right now? I'm not even someone who really follows.
Yes.
But it all lines up. So I went into like this, so this is really beautiful and interesting too. So like he still lives in another state, 3D, but our connection is still there. And he has stories of his own, even more stories about like how he feels me, or I'll show up and I don't know I'm showing up, but
it's like, hello, it's me again.
Yeah. But he has stories of, this last, it was like about a week and a half ago, I did some somatic body work. I have a business coach that I work with, but she does somatic work as well to unblock where we, stored
in the body.
Yeah.
The energy, the trauma in the body.
Yeah, for the purpose of business. And but it took me into this 6-day path of visiting all the places in the city that I've lived, and this timeline work that no one's ever shown me how to do it, but I just went into doing this timeline work. I went and sat outside of the first place I lived when I first moved to my city now. It was before I knew him, but he was in the city at the same time. And so then I just did this parallel stuff, like what was he doing? Who was he with? How old was he? How old was I? How old was my son? Who was I chasing after? And it took me through this very incredible mapping of these timelines since I moved to the city. And it ended up with like this deep cry, purge, like a wailing. Like I didn't know I could cry that hard. But I trusted, I know enough now about how the healing process works that I let myself heal it. And I trusted that I would get to the other side, and like the veil would be lifted, or I would feel lighter. And it truly happened. I cried for hours. It was like 6 days. I did this process of going to these physical locations where significant things happen, like the miscarriage, or when he and I, or when the house his mother was in when she was here, and all the times we had that time with her, and all this stuff, and it all just came out, and it was for like this one final purge. And now I just feel like I never have to go back to that. So now it's only this moment and forward. But I found out he was in town when that started, and I did not know he was in town.
Oh wow! So he was energetically there with you.
He activated it.
Yeah, physically. Okay. So do you have hopes for union now? Because you've been on this journey for quite a long time. And I don't know if you know this, some people talk about first wave, second wave, third wave, and the current energies apparently are very conducive to union. Everyone's getting to that stage now. Do you have hopes for that yourself?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because I noticed that when, in some of the sessions I've been doing, like those of you who are newbies.
Quick, a bit faster.
Like you guys are figuring it out really fast. Maybe it's because we have more content online. I don't know.
It's also the
So
energy. The energy's because of the work you've done, and also because of the work of the earth. I think, yeah.
you think so? Um, I'm not. I have. I talk to God every day about 3D union. I'm content with 5D, and He is making peace with some things. We've had a beautiful message exchange today. We may be seeing each other this afternoon because He is still in town. But for me, I think when we stop asking that question, we have to get to the place where we actually aren't asking that question anymore.
Yeah, we surrender it. Yeah.
So,
Because so even surrender, there's so many layers of surrender. You think you've done it, and then there's more, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about surrendering?
yeah, so like I used to think I was surrendered when I was going, okay, fine, God, I surrender. Like, just like, oh, but I wasn't. I was still wanting a certain outcome. But I think surrender, it's like something you can't force. It's something you feel, and you feel it and you experience it through the healing work, because no one can really show us how to surrender. We can talk about it, but the how comes with trying lots of different healing modalities, trying lots of different, like learning how to commune with God yourself and be obedient to the divine assignments. Because when we do, when we, if even in the most difficult, challenging moments where we're highly activated, where we're being spiritually attacked, I definitely believe in the attacks, the spiritual attacks, to keep the separation there. I've had
So
the experience.
from the dark forces.
Exactly, yeah. Even in those moments, staying committed for me, I I have always I tried to go on some dates. I was the worst date. I was like, I suck. Like I used to be a great date before I met my twin flame, and now I'm not. Um, uh, and then I tried to go on a date. I was another moment of surrender where I was like, all right, I'm gonna let a soulmate. I'm gonna see if there's a soulmate. I'm not a person who does dating apps. I got on a dating app, and out of the 150 connections that guys tried to make with me, there was one that stood out, and I was like, he looks interesting. He went to the same university I went to. Maybe we'll have something to talk about. And turns out his first and middle name were the exact first and middle name as my twin flame.
They always show up, don't they? Everywhere. And they come and sabotage your dates as well, or anything you're
Yep.
doing with music, songs, or their ghost. Their ghost comes and just like pushes the men away.
Correct. But I didn't really want to be there anyway. I just was trying to. So the surrender does come in phases, but I think ultimately it's sometimes it becomes like it's part of your daily practice. You wake up and you go through, like, sometimes you wake up in the morning. My beautiful friend who's also a twin flame, we were discussing. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you go, who am I? Where was I? Where am I? What am I doing? Okay, this is where I'm at. And then there's like some things I do in the morning to get myself, into that state of contentment and surrender, and really getting to a deep understanding of I have to respect his own path, and also I have to trust God with him, because God, I'm not the only person responsible to this path. My twin flame is also called to it. And if I believe that, then I can truly like get my mind and my heart back into that surrendered state, because I know, well, he's not off the hook either. And I'm not gonna beat him over the head with it. God will orchestrate whatever God will do in his life to bring him to God. And yeah. Sorry.
And the surrender aspect, it is trusting and having faith as well. And people lack that, especially in the beginning, with the fear and the obsession. But your twin flame has, I don't know if you believe the same, but your twin flame has their own higher self version too. And you said like they have their God, you have your shared spirit guides. They're on their own assignment, and you have to let that happen. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, that is the hardest thing, because especially when you have I would say, I don't know, maybe in the work you do, but it seems like most of us have had trauma, family of origin, and then the lineage stuff that comes through that you have to clear out.
I think we twin flames get implanted in the worst families to purge all the ancestral stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot of ancestral healing. I'm so fortunate. My family is healing, but we have definitely been through it. Like I can't tell all the stories, but it's been some heavy stuff. But because my parents are twin flames, they're also, I think, they don't. I've never told them that. They wouldn't.
Yeah. But
They'll stick with soulmate, but they are a guide for me. They are an example. Because of them, I actually have seen redemption. I have seen restoration. I have seen um, the horrible things done to each other, but getting in there and sticking with it and working it out, and not just coexisting into old age. Like I'm so, like, I've been angry at and hate, as a daughter, I'm the 3D, like I've had to work through a lot of pain from their choices, but now as they are settling into their, what I would say they're for real 3D union. They've been married for, for all ever, but so I'm thankful for them as an example, but they only could clear out so much, and I've had to clear out even more.
Even more. Okay. Did your divine masculine have to do, your twin flame, did they have to do inner work as well, or healing work? Because they talk about, oh, one of you does the inner, one of you does the outer, one of you gets, knocked about by the karmic 3D, and one of you does the did he have to do some work? Did he do any inner healing, or what journey has he been doing?
What I like to, how I answer that is I think absolutely. It just looks completely different than mine. And a lot of the divine feminines want their masculines to have it look like ours looks.
Yeah.
And that's part of the acceptance and surrender too, is realizing, like, their soul, even though it's like it's the other half, it still has its own way of doing things. And I have to respect that. And so when you ask that question, I would say yes, but it doesn't look like mine. It's going to look like his. And as I've noticed, I explore this all the time. I'm a student and a coach. I agree with you. Like, we're not gurus. Anytime any of us says we're guru, like, run. But I've been exploring this concept of, okay, I think I finally understand. And through some of your videos, I've learned from you about it is truly the divine feminine's job. So I used to get pissed off. Like, I'm here 3 days clearing out all this stuff while you're having a blast in the, somewhere else. Not fair. But once, like, through your work and stuff, and some of the things I've learned from you, I've come into acceptance. So now when I do the work, like last week when I was doing 6 days, I was like, I actually embrace the work, even though, I wasn't angry that I had to do it. And that, I believe, is like, it softens everything.
I like the analogy, like, it's two of you living in a house. One of you is going to do maybe the cooking, the cleaning, and one of you is going to clean the house and do the trash. Like, you're both doing stuff. Like, one of you maybe is doing the repair on the roof, or one of you is doing the painting on the walls. You're both working on the same structure, but you're doing it from different. It's a waste of time if both of you do the same thing and you're taking longer. If two pairs of hands can do different things, you get it done quicker.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful for that you talked about that. It's really helped. So yes, he does his work, but I have to respect and learn if he's not sharing the work with me, or if he's not, like, I mean, he knows I have my twin flame channel. He follows it. He did a live with me last November, I think it was. But I can't expect him to want to come on and be a coach with me. That's just not who he is. He's going to be, his is music. He's an artist. He's a musician. He's a thinker. He's going to express it differently. And process it differently. But yeah, so I don't know. Someone asked him that on the live. They're like, what spiritual practices do you have? And he was like, he's not going to be sitting down meditate. He's out, they're out in the world, and they're doing physical things, and that's what he's doing.
They're living their spirituality.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any advice or tips that you'd like to give to anyone watching today? Like, because obviously you've been on the journey for a while, you're a bit of a, experienced twin flamer. Are there any sort of tips you can give, especially to the newbies?
To the newbies, I feel like I need to learn from all you guys now because you all are coming into union. Like, I don't know. I mean, for me, at least in the sessions that I've done in the last year and a half, I say do your divine assignments, and if you're desperately seeking, booking session after, sometimes there's acute moments where we need a few sessions in a row. But if you're seeking only sessions with you or with me or obsessively scrolling through TikTok videos, which are very helpful and wonderful, but we have to understand what it feels like to go within, um, and up, and like we were saying earlier, um, we don't know how to do that. So I'm a very big advocate of keeping journals, and doing it with intention with certain techniques. Um, and then divine assignments are, I don't know if I coined that term. I have no idea, but I was like,
can you tell us what are divine assignments? Can you give us examples of that?
Yeah, I can. Many. They started showing up when I started doing sessions. I was like, huh, this is a divine assignment. Go do this today. I don't know why. Just it's for your own benefit, my own benefit. So it's like a task. It's like you wake up in the morning and you have your checklist of things to do for the day for your third 3D world. But this is like a task that God directly gives us to do for that day that's for our own good for that day. And it might not always make sense. Sometimes they come through and they're like, what? It doesn't make sense. But if you go through it with trust, you're doing a couple things. You're showing God that you're trustworthy and can handle more. And that's really important on this journey because I believe my experience with God is that it's not just getting downloads and divine assignments, but we're also showing we're showing up to uh, master the level we're in and elevate, evolve into the next. And we're showing God that we're trustworthy. And one way to do that is through these assignments that come through. So um, I've had assignments like one girl was so one of my clients, her assignment was to go ahead and get her GED, and that was like make that a priority because that's gonna feed into her value, um, and that's gonna help her evolve and see her and experience her different. And one was to go and go out into like she lived by the ocean, to go and just take a dip in the evening sun and just feel the water and feel the sunlight. So it's like sensory stuff. One My divine assignments for me, my divine assignment was to pray for my twin flame for 5 years straight for his reawakening. Even if he wasn't like loving me and honoring me, and doing what we would, what I would have wanted him to do in 3D. My divine assignment now I was to stop eating meat. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. Like we eat beef. We're beef meat people, and the Midwest of the United States, and we're like this like Nebraska. Like I'm from Nebraska, like beef. And God recently just said, take some time off from 40 days for 40 days of eating meat. I'm like, why? I don't know, but okay, that's good. Like, what's this adventure? It feels like an adventure for me now. And then what's happening as a result is I'm starting to crave like cabbage. It sounds so silly, but I love it because it keeps me really interested in the spiritual path. And there's like so I think maybe I wouldn't have known that my body needed the nutrients that cabbage offers me because I would never be eating cabbage. But I wouldn't have known that had God said, your assignment right now is to not eat meat. And then it opened up like this new awareness for me of like it wasn't me sitting down going, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to start a new diet. I'm going to start exercising. It's just more organic and beautiful and divinely guided. And so divine assignments can be anything from like what you're doing in your spiritual practice to what God gives you to do with anything, different things in the 3D that then have a symbiotic relationship with your evolution.
I think that's such an invaluable information that you've given there, because a lot of people don't listen to their intuition. A lot of people don't go within. Like maybe you getting off meat was to help your body acclimatize to your ascension, and that you were going to get the nutrients from cabbage. I don't know. But like a lot of twin flames, especially in the beginning stages, they're just looking outward. Give me the answers. Fix my life. I want my twin flame. I want this. What's this? What's that? And when you're frantic and anxious, you're not in touch. You're not in tune, and you're not getting the answers. Are there
Yeah.
any closing messages? Anything you want to give? Because I know on your TikTok, on your link tree, you have the downloadable healing journal. And
Yeah.
I've journaled in the past, and I'm very excited to see that you journal and you do a lot. And then also your healing sessions, which are really, you offer a lot. Like when you read through the whole, you've got it's like that much text about all the things that you get in that 1 hour session. It's a lot, which is really, really great. So people should definitely go and check that out. But is there any closing message before we finish our session today?
Let me think. Yeah, so it always redirects, and like if I could offer anything, it's to remember that this journey is to get into all of the ingredients that make up this thing called love. And when my son, my beautiful son, was probably 6 or 7 years old, he's a little beautiful soul. He came up to me and he said, Mama, the only thing you ever want to think about is love. And I said, he just ran in the room and said that. And I go, why? What, really? Why? And he goes, Mama, love is so precious. It's so powerful. And it's so powerful that it can break things. It can even break things that aren't true. And then he ran out of the room. And if you think about that, it's exactly love. Like when I go back to talking about, I felt like I was spiritually hammered. What God's love was doing for me was breaking in my soul, in my psyche, in my mind, the attachments that I had made to lies, to things that were keeping me separated from this existence of truth, which is that we are created in love, that we are meant for love, we are meant for connection and union with God. But there's a lot of things that love will do. Love will do. It will break things that are not true. And so we can't forget that as we journey onward and spiral up.
That is so profound, because divine masculine, for example, or your twin flame will mirror to you all the stuff within you which is not in alignment to love, right? And we hate that. We're like, triggered. But by loving yourself, which the trigger exists within you, and by loving that aspect of you and integrating it, you can heal all things, right? All the illusion, like your son said, it's such a powerful force. All of the things, because people say, oh, my divine masculine is addicted to this, my divine masculine is doing this, will he ever change, will he not change, he's so distorted. But your son just said, which is the truth, love can change anything in an instant, right?
Absolutely. And when you think, when people are running from the pain of being activated, triggered, whatever word you're using, just remember that when you're breaking those false templates, when you break something, there is a break. It can feel painful, but we're breaking to refuse back into love. So don't be afraid. Like someone told me, when you feel those intense emotions, just after process them for 90 seconds. Just get through 90 seconds, and it'll dissipate. And so instead of running and creating more trauma and more pain,
yeah.
So
it's been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to meet you in person. I love your work.
And likewise. And I think it's flowed so well as well. So thank you very much. I will leave all the descriptions, all the information in the chat here and below in the description. And people should reach out and check your stuff as well. And it's really good for all of us twin flames to work together, support each other, be there for each other. Because so many say to me, I don't have a friend, I don't know anyone. And you know, by these interactions, we get to share that love across the world. So thank you.
Thank you too.